the effing great, and you are listening to another edition of Pro Talk Wrestling here on Spreaker.com, also on YouTube and SoundCloud, guys. We are just mere moments away from ROADBLOCK, and guys, it is going to be quite the event to say the least. So, we're going to talk a little bit about ROADBLOCK, predictions on that, as well as a new segment I like to call Give and Take. But first, let's talk about some breaking news that is going on. There is reports going on that there is actually going to be a matchup at WrestleMania known as the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, and that it's going to feature the Wyatt family. Some people look at this as a way that Bray Wyatt is just basically getting completely buried in this matchup, and even being involved in this matchup. He's being completely buried. But I don't see it that way. Unless, of course, he loses. Then I do agree that it would kind of be a burial. But I think that if Bray Wyatt were to win this matchup, that there could indeed be something bigger going on with this deal. And this could be the year of Bray Wyatt. I'll explain a little more of that in another episode. But I mean, they could still have a good matchup for Bray Wyatt. There's not like, it's not like they can't have him facing off against, say, I don't know, maybe Neville. Perhaps he could face off against somebody who he's faced off maybe countless times, but add a little more spice to the deal. Maybe have him face off against Kane at WrestleMania. Wouldn't be a bad idea. I mean, honestly, it's not like they can't do anything with Bray. I mean, honestly, you know, especially if you put him in the ring with Kane, there's at least a story there that you can work off of, because Bray's talking about taking on the Titans, while Kane is still considered a big Titan in WWE. Now, the deal with him winning the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, this would actually label him as a Titan himself, because only the best of the best have won the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, unless you discount the Big Show and I guess you could say Cesaro, because he didn't really do that much, but that's not really his fault. So that is going to be happening, and honestly I am interested to see in how they actually go through with that. So we are now indeed going to be going into the new segment called Give and Take, where I am going to be taking a certain part in WWE, and I'm going to give that a different kind of deal. Now, for this example, I'm going to be doing give and take on pay-per-views. I'm going to take 5 pay-per-views off of this calendar, and I'm going to give them either a different name or a name that would really work for that time. So, let's get right into it. Give and take. Let's have some fun. So, the first one that I'd like to get rid of, or I would like to take, is the Fastlane pay-per-view. Because let's face it, the last 2 Fastlanes, the only 2 Fastlanes, have been just a wreck. They might as well just have been called Roman's Fastlane to WrestleMania. That's might as well have been what they should have called it. So, what I would replace it with is No Way Out. Now, obviously, that was the pay-per-view beforehand, before even Elimination Chamber, but it really does make sense, because you have this giant roadblock in the middle of WrestleMania, and it just works out perfectly. I mean, you could have the number 1 contendership be put on the line. You could have the WWE World Heavyweight title put on the line at this event. It just makes sense. Because, I mean, you look at some of the history of No Way Out. 2004, they had great matches in which, you know, Kurt Angle won a number 1 contenders triple threat match against John Cena and Big Show. And Eddie Guerrero won the WWE title and for Brock Lesnar. You also look at, you know, the year after, they had a tournament finals between Kurt Angle and John Cena, and they had JBL versus Big Show for the WWE title. This was where the SmackDown actually kind of really made their main event matches. But then when they did the whole roster split, not roster split, the whole deal where they started combining pay-per-views, then they really started using No Way Out to really, you know, step up Elimination Chamber. So they had, you know, I think it was back in 2000 and I want to say it was 2008. 2007 it was. 2007 they had some very interesting. Well, actually, I think it was 2008. They had matches where they had the Elimination Chamber as either number one contenders matches or for the world title, and they would also have world title matches outside the Elimination Chamber. For those of you that remember, Randy Orton versus Cena, The Miz versus Gary Lawler, Edge against Rey Mysterio, and even, well, we could probably put down The Rock versus CM Punk. So many great matches, so that's why I would put No Way Out as the forerunner leading up into WrestleMania, because it makes the most sense. So, we go from that to another pay-per-view that has been overused and is just not getting the right recognition, Extreme Rules. Extreme Rules is the night where WWE goes extreme and everybody has, hardcore matches and ladder matches and tables matches, all these kind of deals, and even a Kiss Me Arse match, which is not extreme at all, unless you say it's extremely horrifying to visual, which it was, because the matchup in it of itself was just not that good. So what would I replace that with? It's obvious. I would replace it with Backlash. Backlash was always the best pay-per-view name to have after WrestleMania, because you had all the great rematches, whether it be Triple H and Batista, the triple threat rematch from WrestleMania 20, Cena, Edge, and Triple H at a triple threat match after Backlash. It was honestly a really good event name. It just stuck out, and it's always about the backlash from WrestleMania. Now, if they bring that back, that's going to be fine. And they could still do, a night of, extreme matches. I mean, there's the thing called, the Raw Roulette. I mean, they could also do something like that for just Payback. It's not like they can't do that on a different pay-per-view. It's just one of those things where I think Extreme Rules just really is not... It's just too gimmicky, I think. It just didn't really work out that well. And I understand that they're trying to appeal to a PG audience. At the same time, it just did not work out anymore. Alright? The next event that I would have that I would take away would be the Money in the Bank event, because let's face it, it is just not that good anymore. The Money in the Bank event is just losing a lot of its prestige, especially the Money in the Bank briefcase. I would much rather have the Money in the Bank briefcase be put at WrestleMania, because honestly, this is the event where you need to have the best matches, where you need to have the best showing of every single WWE superstar. And plus, if you don't have anything going on for the Intercontinental or the U.S. title, have them win in qualifying matches and have them be put into the ladder match. It makes the most sense. So, what would I replace it with? I would replace it, since it would be probably in July, I would actually switch Battleground with Money in the Bank, and in Money in the Bank spot, I would put the Great American Bash. Now, what makes this Great American Bash different is that the main event would always be for the United States Championship. It makes the most sense because it's the patriotic pay-per-view, and it should be defended with the patriotic title in WWE's history. And you could do so much off of that. You could have like a U.S. versus foreign country matchup. Like they could have, a heel Rusev get his momentum back, and he's the United States champion, and he's fighting off against a true patriarch of WWE, whether that be John Cena, or whether that be somebody who represents the United States proudly, and they're proud of their heritage in the United States. I mean, it doesn't always have to be that every single year, but the United States Championship would be the focal point of that entire pay-per-view. It would be the main event, and it would be something that the people would not forget. Now, going into another pay-per-view that I would take away, Hell in a Cell, because let's face it, this was supposed to be the one time of the year that Hell in a Cell is always on the show, but they're always bringing it back at different events like WrestleMania, so just got to get rid of that. It doesn't really make too much sense. Now, would I bring in something like No Mercy, Unforgiven, Armageddon? No. And no. So I think that what we would have to do is bring in something that has probably either happened with a different event or something that would really stand out to the crowd. So I think that they should bring back an actual event that has going to probably be very good leading into Survivor Series, and that is the War Games. War Games would probably be an amazing event to have. Sure, you'd be still doing Hell in the Cell, but there'd be so much more that you could do with that event. You could have tag team matches that would really help determine the number one contender for the WWE Championship, or even have something more go into that, where they could have, a match where it's all about control, saying, okay, this person wins this. Otherwise, you could bring in bragging rights. I think that was actually a really good event concept, especially if they're going to do the whole brand split deal. The only thing about the brand split deal is that you would keep the world title just one. You keep that title just one. You keep the Divas Championship just one. You would keep the tag team titles just one. Now, the Intercontinental and the United States Championship, they could only be defended on a Monday Night Raw or SmackDown and at a pay-per-view. It just makes the most sense. So, we now finally go into the final event, and we would have to change TLC, because let's face it, it just does not work out at all. It's just one of those things where TLC is just leaving a bad taste in your mouth, and the fact that they're using so many of the gimmick matches, it just doesn't really work at all. So, what I would suggest is that since you want to end the new year on a high note, after the Christmas time, after everybody's had some time to just, rest and spend time with their family, everything like that, they should be on a flight to a different part of the country. Now, why am I saying that? Because the final event of the year would be an event called One Night Only, where this is where they have a pay-per-view event, but they always do it at a different country. One year it could be in the UK, one year it could be in Mexico, another it can be in South America, it could be in Canada, it can be in China, it can be in Japan, New Zealand, Australia, all of these different places that you could actually go, because not only are you giving more exposure to the WWE in a different country, but you're also giving another country exposure, because now they're getting actual big-time events. I mean, they've done pay-per-views for different countries, such as, the UK. They've done things in China, in Japan. Why not actually make that an annual deal? And who knows, maybe even bring in some people that are actually famous in that country. I mean, you bring somebody from London, you could bring in guys who are big-time European stars. People like Magnus, Drew Galloway, maybe somebody who really deserves the opportunity. Somebody in Australia, maybe bringing back Nathan Jones. I mean, I think it would just make the most sense to actually have an event in a different area every year, because it's something different. You won't know until roughly about, I would say, SummerSlam time, when they would talk about the one night only deal. And if they want to change the name, that's fine. I mean, you could call it, the UK Brawl, or, Chaos in China, or Japanese War Games, something like that. But One Night Only is the one thing that just seemed to make the most sense to me, because you're doing a one-night big-time event in a different country, and it makes for a very big-time revenue, makes for very big-time television. Alright, so, I'm going to take a short, quick break and come back talking about Roadblock as well as my predictions. But before I do, special offer only available here on Pro Talk Wrestling, guys. AJsBelts.com is doing a big time sale on Premier Championship belts, the World title, the US title, and the MMA Championship.